Welcome into the Commanders Report live show. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Welcome into the program. We got a bunch of great Commanders content coming your way. It is the first day of Commanders OTAs being held in Ashburn, Virginia. And today I got the latest Commanders news from OTAs. I got 8 takeaways from day one of Commanders OTAs that happened earlier today. Then we'll get into some offseason position battles that you guys should be keeping your eye out for on the Commanders roster this year that I'm excited to watch unfold this year. Then we'll talk about 5 Commanders players that I think could get extensions at some point during the 2025 season or even this offseason. And then we'll get into the live Q&A, the weekly mailbag. And if you guys want to get your question on this week's mailbag, all you have to do is use hashtag Commanders down there in the live chat. So for example, if you got a question, you go down there in the live chat, you put hashtag Commanders, then you put your question in after that before you send. So, for example, hashtag Commanders. Will the Commanders win the Super Bowl this year? And if you put that in the comments, producer Joey will sift through all of the best questions, and maybe you can get on the show today. But if you want to guarantee your question gets on the show today, you guys can super chat down there in the comments section. Any dollar amount to super chat, all you have to do is select the super chat button, which is the heart symbol with the money sign in the middle. You click that button, you send in any dollar amount in a super chat, and we'll make sure your question gets on today's mailbag. And with that, let's bring on our producer today, Mr. Joey Petersen. Joey, I can't see you, but
yeah, we're working on the
camera situation here.
We're working on the camera situation. Wait, we're about to figure it out. Look at this shit.
All right.
Boom.
Whoa. All right, getting the profanity going at the beginning of the show here, Joey. I love it. What's up, Joey? Everyone say hi to Joey in the chat.
Oh, look who's here with us.
Oh, what's up, producer Coop?
Jaden Daniels is the most overrated quarterback in the NFL.
He says Jaden Daniels is the most overrated quarterback in the NFL, and he says Dak Prescott is a better rushing threat than Jaden Daniels. He is a Cowboys fan, and he is an idiot. But, Joey, let's talk about this question. Your OTAs start today. And we're going to see a couple of position battles kind of play out throughout the offseason. Which position battle intrigues you the most on the Commanders roster right now?
I'm really excited to watch the cornerback battle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited to see Trey Amos. Obviously, it looks and seems like that back injury isn't anything that's hindering him through these first couple of days of OTAs.
He says he's perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
He says he's 100%.
And you add in Jonathan Jones, who, I mean, if he's not your starter, what a awesome just depth piece that you have in a veteran like him. And so I'm really excited to see those two battle it out. And hey, if Amos doesn't win the job in the beginning, it doesn't mean that he's not going to be able to secure it at some point in the midway through the season.
Yeah, and Marshawn Lattimore is not at OTAs to start. This is voluntary. It's voluntary workouts, so keep that in mind. But Terry McLaurin wasn't there. Marshawn Lattimore wasn't there. And then Laramie Tunsil wasn't there. So those are 3 pretty key veterans for your team not showing up to voluntary workouts. Joey, I'm not too worried about that. Even like the Terry McLaurin contract situation, some people are panicking about it on Commanders Twitter. I'm not worried about it one iota. I think that they're going to find a way to get a contract done. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up to mandatory minicamp here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the I think that's probably what's going to end up happening. I will ask you this. At what point would you be worried about Terry McLaurin with the contract situation?
If he's not uniformed in week 1, I literally think that he's gonna be there, guys. They're gonna make something happen. Now maybe Terry will make a little fuss of things to kind of push things along and get his money, but
that just doesn't seem like him either.
I mean, he's not there at OTAs.
Yeah,
it's voluntary, but I do think that he might make a mess of things a little bit this offseason, but the Commanders are going to budge, all right? They're trying to win Super Bowls now. There's no way they're letting go of Terry McLaurin. Jaden Daniels is number 1 target, and Terry knows that. So Terry can pretty much ask for the money that he feels like he deserves, and he can stand on business there. And eventually, I think the Commanders are going to get this deal done. So make sure you guys type those me's in the chat if you haven't already. We're about to dive in to our first segment of the day. We got 4 live segments for you guys today, so a loaded show. But first, I want to give a shout-out to the people in the chat. 69 people watching live right now. Nice, Joey. We got Cassie Voth, my girlfriend, watching from Minnesota today. We got Shiz. We got Jasmine Gray in here. What's up, Jasmine? Good to see you. We got Jodo as well. We got Jerry Gettings. Jerry, good to see you, man. Good to see you, Jerry. We got Josh Brown in the chat as well. We got a good crew of Commanders fans ready to talk some Commanders OTAs news and rumors. First up today, the latest Commanders news from OTAs. Then we'll get into some offseason position battles, 2025 extension candidates, and then we'll finish up with today's mailbag. Again, guys, another reminder that if you have a question that you want to get on the show today, all you have to do is use hashtag Commanders down there in the live chat. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support. Let's get into it right now with our first segment, the latest Commanders news from OTAs. Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today in Ashburn, Virginia, Commanders OTAs opened up in the bubble. It was raining outside, so Dan Quinn got the players kind of huddled up there in the bubble in Ashburn. Today I'm going to be letting you guys know all the different takeaways that we got from the press conferences. Cliff Kingsbury talked to the media today. Dan Quinn, the head coach, talked to the media today. Jaden Daniels talked to the media today. We got some nice little nuggets from practice that I want to share with you guys on today's edition of the show. But before we get into it here, subscribe for daily Commanders OTA updates. If you guys want to know who's performing well, who's not, how are the positional battles going, how are the rookies looking, all these different things, we're going to have those daily updates for you guys on this channel. So if you guys want in-depth and informative Commanders coverage every single day here on YouTube, click that subscribe button and join our family for that. Okay, now my first takeaway from OTAs is the people that were absent, okay? And we kind of expected Terry McLaurin, the wide receiver, to not be there because he's currently in a contract dispute with the team. He's currently trying to get paid a new contract extension. Laramie Tunsil, the newly added left tackle, Commanders gave up quite a bit for him. He was not there at voluntary workouts today. And then Marshawn Lattimore, the cornerback, the player that the Commanders traded for last year at the deadline, was also not present in Ashburn this afternoon. But guys, all three of these guys are veterans. I've been saying it on the show for weeks. I'm not worried about the Terry McLaurin contract situation. I do think that the team will come to terms with the veteran wide receiver at some point this offseason. Tunsil never shows up to voluntary workouts. He really hasn't his entire career, so that's nothing new with him. And then Marshawn Lattimore, he's a longtime veteran in this league, and so these things are voluntary, right? So if players feel like that they've got other things that they want to attend to, if they want to work out on their own still, and they can get more value from that in doing that instead of being with the team, then I really have no problem with that as long as they're there for mandatory minicamp in a couple of weeks. Then we get to my second takeaway here, which is that Cliff Kingsbury wanted Josh Conerly Jr. Now, this was kind of known, but we kind of learned today, we learned during the draft week that Cliff Kingsbury actually stopped by the office of Commanders GM Adam Peters and gave him a note on draft day saying to take the tackle out of Oregon, which of course ended up being Josh Conerly Jr., who fell to them at the end of the first round in the 2025 NFL draft. And this is what Cliff Kingsbury had to say about why he prioritized building up the offensive line with the Commanders this year. You see in our division, the team who just won the whole thing, the Eagles, they built it starting up front to try and keep up with those type teams. You got to continue to do that and stock that room. And I think that the Commanders' approach to building up the offensive line has been a good one. Now, you can make some arguments about how well they've constructed the defensive line on the defensive trenches, but on the offensive trenches, this has been a big problem for the Washington Commanders for a very, very long time. And this offseason, they really did something about it. They went out and got a legitimate franchise left tackle and Laramie Tunsil on the first day of free agency. They drafted Josh Conerly Jr. and spent a first-round draft pick on a premium draft asset there at right tackle. They spent a pretty high draft pick on Brandon Coleman the year prior. They brought in Tyler Biotis the year prior. All these different things that they have done to bring in quality offensive line talent. This is the best that the offensive line has looked in years. And when Sam Cosmi comes back from that ACL injury, this is going to be the best version of the Commanders' offensive line that we have seen in a very long time. So I absolutely think Cliff, Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, they have it right here when it comes to getting the offensive line correct, especially with a very prized possession under center in Jaden Daniels, but we'll get to him later in today's show. Then we get to Josh Conerly Jr. again here, guys, and something else that we learned today is that he is going to have to earn everything that he gets in terms of playing opportunities this year. They did say Laramie Tunsil is locked and loaded as their starting left tackle. I think that Tunsil's standing in the NFL has certainly earned him that right to be named the starting left tackle already. But in terms of the right tackle spot, the Commanders made it abundantly clear. I think both Cliff Cliff and DQ both made it clear. Like, Brandon Coleman could still be the starting right tackle for this team heading into next year. Could still be Andrew Wiley. It is going to be a competition, and it's going to be best man wins at that position to see who's going to be on the other side of the offensive line there at right tackle. Now, I do think Connerly has a really good chance of winning that job. I think that you can make an argument he's the best overall player between him, Andrew Wiley, and Brandon Coleman. But it certainly seems like the rookie out of Oregon is going to have to earn his stripes every step of the way, which is exactly the way it should be. Then we get to more offensive line news here, where head coach Dan Quinn gave an update on the injury status of Sam Cosmi, who's currently rehabbing after an ACL injury he suffered late last season. And according to Quinn, Cosmi's hitting, quote-unquote, all the markers and is doing, quote-unquote, excellent in his rehab. So that's good news. It's always good to hear that, somebody coming off a very serious injury is doing a good job getting back onto the field. Now, he didn't offer any timetable or any expectations as to when he's going to get back on the field. But, I do think it's going to be, sometime after a quarter of the season. I don't expect him to be ready for week one or anything like that. I don't expect him to participate in training camp. I do expect somebody else to be the starting right guard when this team plays the New York Football Giants in week one. But certainly good to hear, and it is good news that Sam Cosmi's rehab is going well at this point. So show some love to Sam Cosmi down there in the comments section. Spam those 76 is his number down there in the comments section to show him some love. Hopefully, he's a very, very important part of this offense. As arguably, maybe Laramie Tunsil's better than him now, but he's been the best offensive lineman here in Washington for a very, very long time, and we really hope he makes a full and speedy recovery. So if you're with me on that, spam those 76s down there in the comments. All right, now let's look to Deebo Samuel. We got his first look today at practice with his helmet on. Of course, OTAs is kind of the portion here where the helmets go on. And, so much for Deebo Samuel looking like a fat piece of shit. That's all I heard during Super Bowl week is, he looks fat, he looks out of shape, all that stuff. Stomach looks pretty slim and, kind of cut to me there. He's looking really strong. Those legs are looking good. No homo, but Deebo Samuel's looking pretty darn good out there right now, guys, and I think he looks damn good in that number 1 jersey. And if you guys want to be looking good in that number 1 jersey as well, you can get his jersey from our friends at Fanatics. Just go to chatsports.com/Deebo and pick up a Deebo Samuel Commanders jersey today. I think he's going to be rocking that number 1 all the way to 1,000+ yards from scrimmage this year. If you are with me on that, do you think he's going to be a dynamic receiving weapon for the Washington Commanders this year? Go to chatsports.com/Deebo and pick up your Deebo jersey today. When it came to practice, I thought rookie Trey Amos was the one that stood out to me the most, and he stole the show. Now, Trey is somebody that I expect to be the starting, number 2 corner for this defense right away, starting in week 1. And today he really, put his stamp on the practice. Marshawn Lattimore not there. He got a lot of opportunities out there during the O&D periods, and he had an interception today and nearly had another. He had another pass breakup. So his instincts and his physical attributes, his long arms, his physicality, it's already showing up, even though, it's just practice in shorts and it doesn't really matter all that much. Then you get to Jaden Daniels here, and he really stressed his comfortability inside Cliff Kingsbury's offense heading into his second year in the National Football League. And that really is the big step, right? A first-year quarterback coming in, it's a lot of information to take in. And for Jaden to play as well as he did and to look as comfortable as he did last year and with as much poise as he played with, leading this team to an NFC Championship game, it was super, super impressive. And, another thing that people are talking about with Jaden is that he looks noticeably thicker this year in a good way. The nice little addition with the parentheses there. But he is looking like he has put on some weight here. And Cliff Kingsbury even said it's very noticeable. And even his arm strength seems to be a little bit stronger this year. So that's all good news there. Jaden has definitely been putting in the work this offseason. He is a maniacal worker, which is one of the reasons why Commanders fans are extremely lucky to have him as their franchise quarterback. Then speaking of Jaden Daniels here, sophomore slump, never met her, man, because Jaden Daniels I don't think is going to suffer from the same curse that C.J. Stroud did last year, especially because of that investment that the Commanders made on the offensive line that we talked about earlier in today's show. Last year, Houston's offensive line was a complete disaster, and that was one of the reasons why C.J. Stroud struggled, is because he had a little bit of pocket trauma playing behind that offensive line. Jaden Daniels, if anything, he's going to look even more comfortable back there because he got Laramie Tunsil protecting his blind side. I think Josh Connerly Jr. is going to hit the ground running at right tackle, and I think the interior is the best that it's been in a while here in Washington as well. And then if things do break down, Jaden showed last year he has the poise and the pocket presence to shift in the pocket, know when to escape, know when to use his legs, know when to escape the pocket and become a scrambler. Like, I think that, when it comes to having a year of tape on somebody and then finding out their weaknesses, Jaden Daniels is going to be one of the more tougher players to be able to do that to, because of his ability to run the football, because of his playmaking ability out of structure, because of his pocket presence. He just combines so many unstoppable traits to his game that, honestly, having that year of tape on him and to game plan for him, I just don't know how effective it's going to be for NFL defensive coordinators this year, because he is a game-wrecking presence. So true or false? Let me know down there in the comment section. Jaden Daniels will be solidified as a top 5 NFL quarterback this year. Give me a T if you think that's true, or type F if you think that's going to be false. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. This is just day 1 of our OTA coverage here. We're going to have more takeaways, more developments happening throughout the OTA program here over the next several weeks. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button to never miss a news story. All right, we're going to get into our second segment here relatively soon here, but over 100 people watching. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on the Commanders Report live show. Up next, off-season position battles here, Joey. And then we got extension candidates, and then we get to your questions on the live Q&A. If you have a question for me, all you have to do is get down there in the live chat, use hashtag Commanders or Super Chat along with your question to get on the show. Joey, how many questions do we have right now? Do we even have any?
We've got 2.
We've got 2 questions. We usually like to get to at least around 8 questions. So if you haven't put in a question yet, guys, feel free. It's free to enter your question into the mailbag. All you have to do is use hashtag Commanders. So if you got a question for me today about OTAs, about Trey Hendrickson, about Jaden Daniels, about anything that you guys want, this is your opportunity in the week to get your questions on the show. So without further ado, let's get into our second segment of the day, position battles that you should be keeping your eye out during Steelers OTAs this year. Commanders OTAs are now in full swing, and today on the Commanders Report, I got 5 Commanders position battles this offseason that you, as a Commanders fan, should be keeping a close eye on as we approach training camp this year. Before we get into the content today, go ahead and click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we got daily Commanders offseason updates on this channel every single day. If they make a big move, we're going to be doing a big live show. If they trade for Trey Hendrickson, we'll be going live for that. If they make a different kind of trade, we will definitely go live for that as well. And then we got daily updates for you guys on this channel for you guys to enjoy. So if you're a Commanders fan, you bleed burgundy and gold, this is the channel for you. Please click that subscribe button if you want to join our family today. All right, so now the first position that I'm really excited to see the competition play out this year is outside cornerback alongside Marshawn Lattimore. Because even though it sounds like Mike Sainristil, who played on the outside last year, is going to be moving inside, he's still, I think, a part of the equation here. Like if Trey Amos isn't ready and then Jonathan Jones, they feel, is better suited to play the slot, it's not impossible that Sainristil will play, especially to start the season, on the outside. But I do think they would prefer Mikey to play in the slot because I think he could be an impact player from that spot where he's just kind of okay on the outside. But if you can make Trey Amos or Jonathan Jones a legitimate starter for you on week 1 opposite Marshawn Lattimore, I think that's definitely something that the Washington Commanders are going to want to do. And it's going to be interesting to see who establishes himself as the true number 2 corner and the starter in this group between Amos and Jones on the outside. My best guess is that Amos is going to be able to get that job done week 1. I had a first-round grade on Amos. I love his game. I love his footwork. I love his long speed. I love his press technique. I love his long arms. I love his physicality. I love his instincts and zone coverage. I just think that he's an awesome football player, man, and I'm really excited about his future, and I think that he's going to do a really good job during OTAs and in and then mini camp and then training camp this year, where he's going to impress the coaches enough where they're going to feel comfortable putting him out there as a day one starter when this team plays the New York Football Giants at home to start the season. So predict it for me down there in the comments section. Will Trey Amos be a starter in week 1? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. For me, I think he will be, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section for today's pinned question. YouTube's going to throw an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time. But give me a yes or a no if Trey Amos will start week 1. Second position battle I'll be watching very closely here is bandit safety. Now, if you've been watching the show as of late, you guys probably know what that bandit safety is. In Dan Quinn's defensive structure, he likes to play with 3 safeties, and one of them is kind of like a linebacker safety hybrid. Right now, the 2 guys at the safety position that I believe are locked in at starting positions this year are Quan Martin and Will Harris. Now, those guys aren't exactly linebacker types, all right? Those guys are hovering around 200 pounds, and you want to really have that bandit safety be at least 210 pounds and an athletic freak. I don't know if that's how I would characterize either Quan Martin or Will Harris. So you take a look at some of the bandit candidates. Last year, Percy Butler was the 3rd safety that would come in, and Jeremy Chin would play the bandit as kind of that hybrid linebacker type of role when they went to their 3 safety packages. But there's some young players on this Commanders roster here that I think that they're going to consider as well. Tyler Owens out of Texas Tech last year, athletic freak of a guy at 210 pounds. Dominic Hampton is 220 pounds. He's like a true hybrid linebacker. And then Robert McDaniel out of Jackson State, is a Swiss Army knife that I could see the Commanders using in a bunch of different ways this season as well. Now, if I have my best guess as to who wins this job, I'm actually going to say Tyler Owens, because Will Harris, I feel like, is going to replace Percy Butler's kind of role as kind of that 3rd kind of smaller safety that plays, in those quarters and in those half kind of alignments. And then Tyler Owens is going to be playing that Jeremy Chin role, where at 210 pounds, he had a perfect 10 out of 10 relative athletic score coming out of Texas Tech last year. He's an absolute physical freak of nature. And the Commanders are hoping that the production or the development that he has had on the bench in his first season in the league is going to allow him to come in year 2 and really be an impact player for this team. I'm certainly rooting for him. And that would be my best guess at this point in time. Then we get to the tight end position. I don't know if I'd necessarily characterize this as a competition. Zach Ertz is going to start the season as the number 1 tight end. I think it's more of just a question about, how much more is Ben Sinnott, the second-year player out of Kansas State, going to get in this group? Because you bring back Zach Ertz in free agency in a 1-year deal. You signed John Bates to, I believe, a 3-year contract. All right, so, those were your top 2 guys last year. And, Sinnott definitely had trouble getting on the field last year. Now, I think going into year 2, he's still, an athletic freak of a guy, really, really good athlete, really good route runner for his size. And, he's got some great athleticism, as you guys can see here with the leaping grab during phase 2 of the offseason program this year. But he's got some juice, man. So I'm really excited to see what kind of role and, kind of expansion of that role is going to look like for him this year. And I definitely think that he could be a contributor for this offense that was already really good last season. Then we get back to the defense here with 3rd linebacker. Speaking of guys that are locked in as starters for this defense, Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner are definitely locked in as this team's off-ball linebackers. But the question is, who's going to be, coming in as that 3rd kind of linebacker? Now, could certainly be that bandit safety. They might not really put in a true 3rd linebacker in this rotation. They kind of didn't do that last year. They kind of just told Jeremy Chin to fill in that role in those bandit looks. But Jordan McGee is somebody that I think that they're really going to be relying on this year. Also, Kane Madrano and Dominic Hampton are kind of athletic type of linebacker types. And then Tyler Owens, even at 210 pounds, I think has got the physical tools to potentially play a 3rd linebacker role if asked to do that. But Jordan McGee is really the guy that they're hoping is going to take that next step this year, and that's my guess. I think he earns the job. He's a really, really good and athletic pass coverage linebacker, and that's perfect for what they need because Bobby Wagner is not a really good pass defender at this point in his career. He's more of an early down, kind of run defending, blitzing type of linebacker. And then when it's on pass heavy downs and you need kind of a pass coverage type of linebacker out there, Jordan McGee is the guy that you can put out there in those situations. 2nd-year guy at a Temple, really freak athlete. I mean, Adam Peters loves his freak athletes. And I definitely think you could see him get a bigger role with the Commanders this year. Then the final position battle I'll be looking out for here is third running back. Once again, you have two kind of locked-in starters at this position. Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler are once again going to be your running back pairing at the top of the depth chart. But then after that, there is a question as to who's going to assume those third running back duties. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, the 7th-round pick out of Arizona, very explosive player. He's getting rave reviews from coaches early on in the offseason program for the Commanders. I could certainly see him winning this job. And then you got Jerry McNichols, who showed some good things last year as this team's number 3 running back. And Chris Rodriguez Jr. has shown flashes in his young NFL career as well. So I honestly really like, I would say this running back group doesn't have like a true stud or star in it, but they got a lot of very solid pieces and they have good depth. So no matter what happens during the season, if God forbid somebody gets injured, they got the pieces in here to make it work. No matter the circumstance, in my opinion. But my guess, I think Krosky-Merritt's going to win the job. Man, I really like his tape from Arizona back in 2023. Didn't play all that much last year because of a eligibility dispute, which is a little bit of a red flag. But, the coaches at Commanders OTAs are raving about this kid, man. So really excited to see his explosive and aggressive running style, on full display during training camp and during the preseason games. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if he impresses enough to win that number 3 running back job right out of the gate. That'll be it for today's edition of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of today's program. And don't forget to click that subscribe button for in-depth, informative, and free Commanders content every single day. 2 segments down, 2 to go, Mr. Joey. Did we get any more questions during that segment?
Yeah, we did. We got some good ones. Hey, Jimmy Kubas, Kubas, you said hashtag, and then you put a space between hashtag and Commanders.
It's got to be.
Has to be together.
It's got to be together. It's got to be hashtag followed right by Commanders. No space in between there.
Yeah, it's a great question. So just copy and paste it, Jimmy, if you're still watching, and just ask it again, but use hashtag Commanders in the correct way. But no, we've got a lot of really good ones. I mean, honestly, we'll probably be up to 7 or 8. We're up to 7 or 8 right now, which is great.
Well, there's still room for more, though,
guys.
Yeah,
still room for more.
Only the best questions get on. So if you got a good question, don't be shy. Go hashtag Commanders in the live chat. We'd probably appreciate 3 or 4 more questions just so we can get some good ones in there. But if not, no worries. We will get into the mailbag relatively shortly here. But Joey, let's move on to our next segment here, where I'm going to be talking about 5 players on the Commanders roster that are slated to be free agents next offseason that I would consider extending if I were GM Adam Peters and locking up to this roster for the long term. So without further ado, our third segment of the day, extension candidates for your Washington Commanders here in 2025. Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today, we're going to be talking extension candidates for your Washington Commanders here in 2025. Got 5 players on the Commanders roster that I would consider giving a new contract to this offseason or during the season. That is, if they earn it. But before we get into the content today, guys, I would greatly appreciate if you click that subscribe button and join our family today. We got over 41,000 subscribers here on the Commanders Report. We are the fastest growing Commanders channel anywhere on YouTube. It's all 100% free to join. And what you guys get when you join is you get daily Commanders videos every single day, OTA updates, the latest surrounding trade rumors, all that great stuff, breaking news coverage. Say if they trade for Trey Hendrickson, we'll go live for that. Speaking of live, we go live every single Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Commanders Report live shows. So I really do appreciate your guys' support. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already and join our family today. All right, now let's get into the first one. It's obvious, right? Terry McLaurin is the guy that the Commanders are honed in on to get a contract extension done with this offseason. It might be the case that Terry's the only one that gets an extension before the season begins. And it certainly seems like Terry, that he feels like, it's due that he gets paid because he has been somebody that has endured a lot of poor quarterback play over the years here in Washington and has still been an incredible producer. And then, last year was awesome again. So mark my words on this, guys. this is going to get done. The Washington Commanders, they're trying to win now. They know Jaden Daniels is on his rookie contract. They want to make the most of it over the next 4 years, and it's not exactly a great idea to risk losing, your number one weapon for that quarterback heading into a season where you're trying to win a Lombardi trophy. And McLaurin knows that. He's coming off a great season, 13 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards again. He's just an awesome player, great deep threat, really well-rounded wide receiver, and a true alpha as far as I'm concerned. One of the potentially 10 best wide receivers in football and one of the most underrated receivers in all of football. Now, when it comes to what the price tag is going to look like, Ben Standig from The Athletic says to expect Terry's extension to be somewhere between what T. Higgins got this year at $28.75 million per year and $33 million per year, which is what DK Metcalf got with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm absolutely willing to pay that if I'm the Washington Commanders. He's an absolutely phenomenal player, and, it's the win now window, man. You got to pay up for players, and I know Terry's getting up there in age a little bit here, but he's still a hell of a player. He's a team captain for you, and he's an absolute necessary piece for you if you want to win a Super Bowl in 2025. So if I'm the Commanders, I'm paying up. But what say you guys? If McLaurin's saying you got to pay me $33 million per season, or I'm walking, or I'm going to ask for a trade or whatever, what are you going to do? Are you signing him or are you not? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. Is McLaurin worth $33 million per season? This will be the pinned comment on today's show. YouTube is going to throw you an ad break here in just a few seconds. And when they do that, just go down there in the comment section while the ad is playing and give me a yes or a no. Second extension candidate. How about the wide receiver, too, for the Washington Commanders here, man? Now, Debo is one of these guys here where they're not going to extend him before the season because he needs to prove himself. He didn't have his best season in San Francisco last year, and, the Commanders believe in him, and they did trade a draft pick for him, and because of that, if he plays well during the season, it would not shock me at all, especially for the right price. The Commanders would think about extending him in the middle of the season. Like, if he is your absolute workhorse on those early down wide receiver screens, and if he's really an absolute dog run blocker and all these different things that he brings to your offense and the versatility, and he's just a piece that you don't want to lose in the 2026 offseason, if he really shows out and shows himself to be worthy of a contract extension here, it would not shock me at all if in the middle of the season he ends up getting locked up, and you lock up your number one and number two receivers in this offense for the foreseeable future. Now, like I said, Debo's going to have to earn it. Like, he's going to have to prove that, like, he's an indispensable kind of entity in this offense. And, I do expect him to have a very unique role in Cliff Kingsbury's offense on orbit motions, jet sweeps, the early down wide receiver screen work. He's going to be a very crucial element of that. And then I also think the route that is going to make him a king here in Washington is going to be the dig route, because that gets him the ball in space when Jaden Daniels uses his excellent mental processing to get him the ball in space there on the backside read. And I think that he's going to be an absolute monster in this offense this year. If you agree with me on that, and you think Debo is going to be great in this Commanders offense this year, you can get his jersey today from our friends at Fanatics when you go to chatsports.com/Debo. That is our special link that I'm going to put in the comments and description of today's show. And if you guys click that link, it's right below me right here, chatsports.com/Debo, and you make a purchase, Fanatics sends us here at the Commanders Report part of the proceeds of your purchase. So not only are you getting a Debo Samuel jersey for yourself, but you're also helping out our channel. All right, so if you want to help yourself and you want to help us out at the same time while also getting a Debo Samuel jersey in your closet, go chatsports.com/Debo to make it happen now. Another potential extension candidate that I think could happen in the middle of the season is B-Rob, Brian Robinson Jr. Now, running back is a position that's relatively replaceable, and B-Rob is, at least to this point in his career, has been, let's just say, unremarkable. He's not a star in the league. He's a very functional starting running back, all right? And we love B-Rob on this channel. We have our own chant for him, B-Rob, 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 B-Rob. We love B-Rob chants on this channel. But he's going to have to earn his spot on this team moving forward this year, and he knows it, all right? Cliff Kingsbury has talked about at Commanders OTAs this week how focused he is this offseason to really prove himself. And, he is going into a contract year last year, just under 800 yards and 8 touchdowns as the number one running back for this team. And with guys like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt on this team, that could be up-and-coming type of players, B-Rob's going to have to prove himself. And if he proves to be really take that next step as a running back, it wouldn't necessarily shock me if for the right price, he decided to come back to the Washington Commanders. They end up locking him up long term if they feel like he is the perfect fit for this offense. I wouldn't exactly say this one is super likely. If I'd have to guess right now, I think B-Rob probably hits the open market next year. But you never know, and I'm definitely rooting for B-Rob this season. Then we get to Tress Way, the punter, and Tress is getting older, and he's had some, up and down seasons over the last kind of couple years, but last year he was back to being excellent. He was really, really good, and he no longer wears the number 5, so producer Lopez, a big L for him there for using an old photo, but he's still one of the best punters in the league, okay, and he is somebody that comes out and has another really good season. Wouldn't be surprised at all if we get word at some point here that the Commanders want to keep him here for the long haul and want to make him a Commander for life, all right? So I could certainly see that. Then another special teams player that I could see get an extension, especially for the right price tag, a team-friendly deal, Jeremy Reeves, the special teams ace. Reeves has been, one of the best special teams players in the league for a long time, even going back to the Ron Rivera days. And he is, a real good locker room presence. People love this guy in the Commanders locker room. He's a team captain. He's the type of guy people want in the Commanders locker room every single year. So, if he wants to come back on a team-friendly deal on something that's fair for a special teams ace, I would not be opposed to that whatsoever. To keep a guy like this in your building is absolutely something that would be worth it to me. But let me know down there in the comment section. Besides Terry McLaurin, we all want Terry to get extended, all right? But besides Terry, which Commanders player would you like to see get extended this year? Is it Tress Way? Is it Jeremy Reeves? Is it Deebo Samuel? Is it Brian Robinson Jr.? Is it somebody else? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And that'll be it for today's edition of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already for in-depth and informative Commanders content on this channel every single day. One more segment to go here on the live show, Mr. Joseph, and it is the live Q&A. Did we get any more questions in there?
Yeah, we got a ton. We got like 12 or 13.
13 questions. All right. So we ready to ride right now?
I'm ready to ride, man. We are light them up and mowing them down.
We are flying through this live show right now. But we got 126 people watching. I'm not going to make you guys wait, man. We're going to go boom, 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 boom today.
Let me find the best one to go first.
All right. So Joey's going to find the best one, the best question here. But I think we've covered some good ground here. We've talked about the Commanders OTAs and my takeaways from day one, some position battles for you guys to really keep your eye on, some extension candidates, that could get some money this offseason or during the season. Got a lot of good stuff on today's show, but we got the best one for last here. Your questions are getting answered right now here on the Commanders Report live show, and let's get into it. Welcome into the Commanders Report mailbag. I am your host, Jack Sperry. Thank you guys so much for stopping by today for what is my favorite segment that we do on this channel every single week. Most days I'm sitting here at Chat Sports and I'm wondering what topics you want me to talk about on the Washington Commanders. Well, here on this one, my job's made pretty easy here because you guys let me know what you guys want me to tell you with the questions that you guys submit every single week. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and join us for our live shows every single Wednesday, where you guys have an opportunity to get your questions on the Commanders Report live shows and then on these mailbags. We try to give you guys the most interactive community for Commanders fans anywhere on YouTube. We have daily poll questions on our channel. We also give you guys daily Commanders videos where you guys can interact with fellow Commanders fans in the comments section. And then we have these live shows where you guys can interact with fellow Commanders fans every single week, as well as myself and producer Joey, which is a lot of fun. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now. Join over 40,000 Commanders fans that have already clicked that subscribe button and join the Commanders Report family today. Got one from Keith, my man. It says, is Amos going to be another Forbes dream that doesn't ever happen? Thoughts? I don't think so. And here's the reason why I don't think he's Forbes, Keith. All right, Forbes was very much a instinctive, ball hawk, aggressive type of player that really took advantage of a lot of the opportunities he got in college football. He was a great returner after the catch, too, and he had some good ball skills, but he just couldn't survive in the National Football League because he didn't have the play strength. All right, plain and simply. He could only survive in off coverage, And then he showed that he wasn't good enough in off coverage when he got to the league. And, whenever he did contest for a football, the more physical wide receivers that he was going up against, like the X receivers on the outside, would just out-physical him. So, you have to be able to hold up physically, plain and simply from a play strength perspective, or you're going to get dominated in the National Football League. That's not an issue with Trey Amos. Not only does he have really good long speed to be able to, prevent the deep passes down the field and stick with speedy receivers, but he also plays with great instincts, both in zone and an off-coverage alignment, but also in press. And he's got long arms. He's physical. He's got really good play strength for a corner. And that's kind of his calling card. So he's kind of like the anti-Forbes to me, where I think he is going to be an immediate success for the Washington Commanders. I had a first-round grade on him. I would have been fine taking him in the first round, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. But you get him in round 2. He certainly seems like he's doing a good job in OTAs to this point, and I'm excited for his future. Then we got one from TWD Fan Comic, who says, can you summarize the differences that are going to be present comparing our defense at the end of last season to what it is currently? I am misinformed that rush D isn't much improved yet. Or am I misinformed that rush D isn't much improved yet? So in terms from a talent perspective on paper, you look at the defensive line last year and the defensive line talent this year, and it's hard to really say bona fidely that it's better or that you upgraded the unit, right? Because you lost your number one pass rusher this year on the edge in Dante Fowler Jr., got double-digit sacks for you, made some big plays week in and week out. And then, you bring back Cleveland Ferrell, and, you still have Dorrance Armstrong under contract, who's okay, but he's not fantastic, definitely not a 1. And then you bring in Dietrich Wise, who's, he's definitely not a one-on-one, dominant type of pass rusher, kind of a bigger body. And then you got Jacob Martin, who's a bit lighter and is probably going to be asked to play that Dante Fowler Jr. role if they don't bring in anybody else. But yeah, I do think that where this defense is better is on the back end. Now, somebody's going to have to show up as a bandit safety. You lost Jeremy Chin, and that guy was a perfect fit for that bandit safety role, kind of that hybrid linebacker type of role. They're hoping Tyler Owens or Dominique Hampton can step into that this year. We'll see how Will Harris adjust to the defensive structure as well. But the cornerback room is a lot better. I think Jordan McGee is going to have a really good second year, kind of coming in as kind of a third linebacker. Johnny Newton in his second year, I think, is going to really be benefited from having a full offseason. He didn't really have an offseason last year because of the foot procedures he went under. I think Javon Kinlaw is somebody that brings a lot of athleticism to the table. And the thing about the Commanders and Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. Is that they don't really rely on one-on-one pass rush dominance to win and get to the quarterback, all right? They like to use a lot of stunts and loops in games, and they're going to use Javon Kinlaw and his athleticism, Dietrich Wise with his ability to blow up guards from the edge, to be able to facilitate those types of stunts and loops and those types of games to be able to get people to the quarterback without having to straight up dominate them one-on-one like most traditional defenses do. So, I think this defense is much improved. Well, maybe not much improved, but it is better than what it was last year. And then if they can add a Trey Hendrickson or a Von Miller or Zadarius Smith before the start of the season, that just makes it even that much better. TWD, good question. Got one from Vaughn, says, who do you think will be best for the defensive end spots? Zadarius Smith, Trey Hendrickson, Von Miller, or Jadeveon Clowney? If you can get Trey Hendrickson, go get the big fish, all right? Because you're trying to win now, okay? Jaden Daniels is on his rookie contract for the next 4 years. You want to go for it. And the person that can make the biggest impact on this defense out of anybody that's out there right now, it's Trey Hendrickson, because he's led the league in sacks for this past year at 17.5, and he had 17.5 sacks the year before that. He is a dominant number one pass rusher, and even though, traditionally Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. don't necessarily rely on a number one dominant edge rusher to win for them, but they certainly don't mind it when they do. Just ask Micah Parsons, who is unbelievable in this system. So Trey Hendrickson is absolutely somebody that I think would be worth the price to go get via trade this offseason. That is, if the Bengals are willing to come to the table. So shout out your guy down there in the comments section. Name an edge rusher you want the Washington Commanders to sign this in free agency or trade for before the season. Do you want to trade and pay the heavy price tag for Trey Hendrickson? Do you want to go out and get Von Miller in free agency? Zadarius Smith? Anybody else? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section for today's pinned question. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time. But let me know which edge rusher you would want the Commanders to sign. We got The Health Fitness Enthusiast says, we haven't heard much from the UDFAs. Do you still think Robert McDaniel can make the roster? Listen, man, he's a UDFA. It's going to be UDFAs have a real tough time making rosters, and usually only like 1 or 2 from each kind of crop. Maybe you get 3 from a class that ends up making the final roster. The thing about McDaniel is that in college, he did a lot of different roles. He didn't specialize necessarily in anything. If he specialized in anything, is that he was a really good nickel defender that would blitz off the edge extremely well. I think, when you got a player that can do so many things and is really athletic like he is, you got to find a way to let that player help you out. So I think if any UDFA is going to make the roster, I will say McDaniel probably has, as good a chance as anybody because of the versatility and the athleticism he brings to the table. But, whenever you're a UDFA, you definitely need to prove your worth from the word go. Then we got one from Mr. Poor. Says, how well do you think Debo will be? How many yards do you see him getting? Love the show. Mr. Poor, appreciate you watching. I think he's, as long as he isn't just out of shape, kind of like the way he was last year with San Francisco, I think that he's a great fit because what he's known for is that he's a fantastic blocker and he's fantastic with the ball in his hands in space. And if we know anything about Cliff Kingsbury, he is so good at getting the ball out in space to his playmakers. The way that he can scheme these things open, specifically in the screen game, with the motion game that we saw from him last year that we hadn't seen in years prior. Using him in a versatile of different alignments, and kind of making him the chess piece that can move all over the place for this offense. I think it's just going to add a whole nother level of danger for an opposing defense because you got to deal with Jaden Daniels and his dual threat ability. You got to deal with the alpha #1 receiver on the outside there in Terry McLaurin. And you got to make sure you know where Deebo Samuel is at all times or else Cliff Kingsbury is going to burn you. So there's a lot of stuff for opposing defenses to have to figure out and account for on a down-to-down basis. And that's the hallmark of a tough team to go up against, right? You got to play perfect in order to play well against them. And I don't think there's going to be too many defenses that are capable of playing that perfect brand of football. So I think that he's going to play pretty well. In terms of yards, I think he's going to get over 1,000 from scrimmage if he stays healthy. He's somebody that I think is going to get fed on early downs. He's going to be used in a bunch of different creative ways. And I think Jaden's going to find ways to get him the football as well. Then you got Jerry Gettings says, what group are you more concerned for out of edge or safety / robber? I would say probably edge, but Robber's one that I'm intrigued by because Tyler Owens has the physical skill set to be a hell of a robber. Same thing with Dominique Hampton. It just kind of depends on which one of those guys kind of develops. Jordan McGee can maybe potentially play that kind of role as well as kind of a lighter pass coverage type of linebacker. Could certainly see him fitting into that role a little bit, even though he's a linebacker, not a safety. But edge is one where it's Dorrance Armstrong is your #1 edge rusher right now, and he's he would be an okay #2 starter for most teams. So, it's as much as Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. love to do their stunts in their games and their stunts, and they can scheme people open that way. It's still nice to have that dominant edge on the outside that can win a one-on-one matchup when you want him to consistently. Commanders don't have that right now, so that's certainly an element to their defense that they're lacking. Then they got one from ZX, my man, says, what is your opinion on Chiefs Monday night game? In my opinion, it is the perfect JD5 upset game like the Bengals game last season. Listen, man, that could be a big-time statement victory because if he goes into Arrowhead in front of a national audience and beats Patrick Mahomes, some people claim that he's the greatest quarterback of all time already. If he goes into his building and beats him, that is going to be a signature win in his young NFL career, and it will tell the NFL world that this is a team that can win a Super Bowl. If you can go into Arrowhead Stadium and beat the Kansas City Chiefs, especially on a primetime game, you can beat anybody. So I think that that's going to be a big-time kind of litmus test kind of game for the Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels as a quarterback. So very, very excited for that one. So let me know down there in the comments section in that primetime football game in Arrowhead Stadium. Let me know who you think wins that game. Type WAS for Commanders or type KC for Kansas City Chiefs. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Then we got one from Matt B. Says, what do you think of the Ramsey trade rumors, Jack? Surely not. I mean, nothing's impossible, but I would say probably not. Because as it stands right now, you got pretty good depth. You traded for your corner last year in Marshawn Lattimore. All right? You drafted corners in the last 2 drafts. You got your nickel guy in Samerstill, and then you got your outside guy in Trey Amos. They believe in Marshawn Lattimore, and they spent some, significant draft capital to go get him, right? So to just give up on him to go get Jalen Ramsey just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And you already have your depth piece in this group, too, with Jonathan Jones, who is an excellent depth piece that can play inside or outside. So, I think the Commanders would much, much, much rather trade for Trey Hendrickson. I think that they would like to save whatever draft capital and whatever trade capital they have left to be able to go get him instead of adding another player to a position group that, honestly, I think is already a strength for the Commanders heading into the season. So, yeah, I don't see Ramsey being the destination for the Washington Commanders here. So make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already, if you are a real one. If you're enjoying today's content and if you enjoy our videos generally, the easiest way to help out our channel, guys, is to take that half second and click that thumbs up icon. I greatly appreciate your guys' support. Then we got one from my man, Mike has bad knees. His biggest challenge for the Commanders this coming season, the Eagles, no dominant edge. Listen, man, I think, fighting the injury bug is always going to be a storyline for any NFL team. But for the Commanders specifically, the Eagles are going to be a tough test because they're still going to be really good, man. They got most of their players, as long as their offensive and defensive coordinators, they're new ones. Well, actually, Fangio, I believe, is back, but their new offensive coordinator, after losing Kellen Moore, I'm blanking on his name, but if he's worth his salt, they're going to be good again, and they're going to be, Super Bowl contenders again. And until somebody dethrones the Eagles, they're the champions of the world. So it's the Commanders' job to unseat them. So that's something I'm very excited about. In terms of a roster perspective, I do agree that no dominant edge is probably their biggest hurdle that they would have to overcome. I would also say somebody's got to have to step up in the robber/bandit role in this defense. And then, either Trey Amos or Jonathan Jones needs to play well somewhere in this defense in order for the defense to be better this season. So those are kind of the challenges that face the Washington Commanders. And there's also the challenge of having a second-year quarterback where, defenses have a full year of tape on him. And, Jaden's going to have to overcome some of the expectations that are being put on him. And he's going to have to live up to those expectations or even exceed them this season, which will certainly be a big challenge for QB1. That'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by on today's edition of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports. We got more content coming your way this week, so make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, go Rays. Hail to the Commanders. Oh my goodness, I just completely blanked.
You second-guessed yourself. You had it right.
I did have it right the first time, and for some reason, it just didn't feel right coming out. I don't know, man. My brain just did a number on me. But okay. So we have been super efficient today.
There we go. 53 minutes, 4 segments.
4 segments in 53 minutes. That's an awesome job right there. Thank you guys so much for all your questions. A lot of really good questions.
Really good ones.
Something I love about this fan base in particular, guys, is that a lot of smart football fans in this fan base, and you guys ask great questions on our mailbags every single week. I can tell you from experience that is, maybe not the case with every single fan base out there.
You don't get that everywhere.
You don't get that on the Raiders Report. Raiders Report has stupid ass questions.
You don't get that on Eagles Now either.
You don't get that on Eagles. You don't get that on Cowboys. Stupid questions in those fan bases. But yeah, man, I appreciate all of your guys' support. We got more OTA coverage coming your way later in the week. So if you're one of the 95 people that are still here during the show, I greatly appreciate your guys' support. I will see you guys next time, and until then, hail to the Commanders.